Hey guys, Dr. Lee Thomas here. Just a few weeks ago, we had our biggest seminar ever. It was called Mind, Body, Food, and it focused on the underlying causes of brain fog. Brain fog is an early warning sign for cognitive disease, things like dementia and Alzheimer's. And so what I spend this seminar going through is all the things that you need to do in your life to work on preventing dementia, Alzheimer's, and cognitive disease. My goal for you is that you're healthy not just for yourself, but for your family, and as a result of taking these action steps into action, you can change future generations as well. We've recorded the whole seminar in its entirety for you, so I hope you enjoy. So I have a confession to make that I used to live in Florida, and when I was growing up, I had this insane fear of the dark. I wouldn't sleep at night, literally. I thought that there was like a tiger because my nightlight made like these stripes on a wall, and I was like, that's totally a tiger, I know it is. And so I lost a lot of sleep as a kid. I had this insane fear. And then so the funny thing was I moved to Florida, and this was one of our neighbors' houses. And so then like I felt justified. I was like, see, people really do have things underneath their bed. We all should sleep on a very high mattress. And so the whole idea behind that is this, though, like I probably wasted years and years and years of my life because I had fear of something unknown. You know what I mean? How of us do that? How many of us do that? I have good stats and I have like fake stats. And I think the best fake stat I've ever heard is that like we spent 92% of our lives worrying about things that aren't even going to happen or we can't control. You know what I mean? So we spend so much time doing that. And so one of the good things today that I want to do for you guys is help just to eliminate that fear by shining light on what health is, what disease is, and really help give you guys action steps. There's no reason to be afraid of anything inside of your body, especially when you know what it is. So we've got a couple big objectives today, but before we go into these, there's something that I need from you guys. I need you guys to engage today. Everyone say engage. Engage. Okay, so engagement is so important, okay? I have no interest in you guys sitting here for 2 hours, clapping, leaving, and showing up 3 months from now at the next seminar that we do in the same place that you were today. Okay, so I want you guys to stand up, not stand up. I want you guys to engage and show up and be ready to work. Okay, sound good? Yes? Okay, good. So if you're feeling tired at any point, we have a thing that we do here. If you feel like you're tired, if you see someone nodding off, just raise your hand, and we'll do burpees until we feel like we have the energy to keep going. Okay, so this is what we're going to cover today, though. The objectives is today, we're talking about brain health. So the name of the seminar is Mind, Body, Food. I want you guys to get a real understanding of what cognitive disease is, what it is inside of the body. You will not have to be afraid of it, trust me, after I tell you what it is and what causes it. You're going to understand the early warning signs. You're going to know the risk factors. You're going to know what causes you to be more at risk for these problems. Most importantly, you're going to understand what to do and not to do. And I promise by the time that you leave today, you'll have a plan to put it all together and make lasting change inside of your life. Sound good? All right. So I'm just curious. Now that I said the whole fear thing, no one's going to raise their hands. But before coming in here, who was ever like afraid of like losing their memory? I'm just curious. I'll be honest. So I've read like 4 books preparing for this. One of my biggest fears was working really hard and taking care of my family and retiring and then forgetting everything that I had done in my life. Research actually shows this, that dementia, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, cognitive decline, second most feared disease in the US, second only to cancer. So you're not alone in thinking that. Nobody ever wants to lose their memory or have things go downhill. But the reality is this, is that one in 8 of us, by the time we're 65, will start to have cognitive decline. By the time that we're 80, 1 in 2 of us will be suffering from cognitive decline, be it dementia, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's. There's tons of different versions of it. But so the reality is this is what we're going to go through, is that we don't have to wait until we're 65 or 80 to start working on these issues. There are early warning signs that we have in our lives. And so I just want to ask you guys, because I could raise my hand for about 4 of these. Just raise your hand if you have any of these things going on. You forget where you put things. Who remembers every morning where you have your car keys? I don't. So one of the first early warning signs is we start to forget where we put things. We have difficulty remembering conversations we just had. I remember my grandma always saying like, whatchamacallit, like that that thing, that candy bar that I've never eaten one of, but I hear they're good. You forget what you say mid-sentence. You're stumbling on words. That's more severe. One of the most common ones I see, though, is you have brain fog. And this is, I take care of people all day long, and I see this so commonly. We just don't feel right. You know what I mean? Raise your hand if you've ever felt like that. You're like, man, I know that I'm better than this. I'm not as sharp as I used to be, or I'm not as on point. I feel like I'm just kind of like hang gliding through life and just kind of gradually going down, but I don't know how to get up again. These are the early warning signs of dementia. So I want to go through specifically what it is. You guys don't have to be afraid of this anymore, okay? Brain disease happens because we're in an unhealthy body, okay? There is not a single person in history who has had a healthy body and developed dementia, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's. The health of your body is directly correlated to the health of your brain, meaning there's nothing you do to your body that doesn't, in consequence, affect your brain. Inside of your brain, we have a couple really important areas that are affected by memory loss, cognitive loss. Everybody look to the front through here. I'll kind of use my little laser pointer for you guys. This is your prefrontal cortex. This is what makes you you. These are your what you would call executive functions inside of your brain. So the ability to have an emotional conversation, to engage with someone, your personality, your behavioral patterns, all of those things start here. Your speech areas are here as well. Towards the back of your brain, you have something called your hippocampus, which is just underneath your parietal lobe. Your hippocampus is the area that is associated with storing memory. Everybody say hippocampus? Hippocampus. So the whole idea behind that is you never forget a hippo that you see on campus, if you ever saw it walking around. So that's where you store new memories. So all that brain fog or cognitive decline is those areas are not receiving the stimulation that they need to stay alive. It's kind of scary, but that's all it is, okay? Your brain requires nutrients, it requires stimulus, it requires energy in order to function properly. And so on your left-hand side through here, this is a normal brain, as a side view of your normal brain. It's full. You can see the cortex, which is this area around the outside. This little thing under here, that's your hippocampus. That's where your memory is stored. On the right is a brain in cognitive decline, and so what happens to us over time is our brain is constantly growing as we're developing, meaning like from 0 to 18 years, and then our brain stops growing. The only thing that continues to grow inside of our brain is the hippocampus, which is where we store new information and new memories. Everything else is already where it should be. And so the whole idea behind that is we're not getting brand new brain cells, okay? That's why I tell people never hold your breath when you sneeze, because you don't get more. So you got to hang on to the ones you have. And so your brain requires very certain things in order for you to be able to have this here. On the right, in a dementia brain or brain that's full of fog, the brain is shrinking. It's not receiving the nutrients it needs. Literally, the cortex starts to shrink. The ventricles, these dark spaces in here, that's where fluid sits inside of your brain. They start to expand, and your hippocampus, which is where you store memory, starts to shrink. That's what leads to this process. And so the problem that we see now is that dementia, brain fog, it's on the rise. 5 million Americans suffer with it. It's very expensive. One of the reasons I wanted to do this talk specifically is I've been dealing with my grandpa. He's been in a memory care center for the last 2 years. He passed away about 4 months ago. And the problem was that he worked his butt off his whole life. He was a brilliant man. 2 PhDs, he was a professor. He retired, bunch of money in savings, and unfortunately he started to have really bad cognitive decline in his early 80s. By the time he was 84, he didn't remember who I was anymore. So phone conversations, I'd have to start with 10 minutes of describing who I was, and then describing who my mom was, and because he didn't remember who his kids were anymore. And the problem behind it was this, though, was that I'm researching it. I'm trying to help him. So I'm here. He's over in Coshocton, and I'm reading all this stuff, and they're saying, well, no, cognitive decline is completely environmental. They said that it's everything that you do inside of your life. They said, in fact, early onset dementia is as rare as the fact that there are 200 families in the U.S. that suffer from a genetic condition that causes early onset dementia. They said this is totally an environmental problem. And they said the more important thing is that these problems start happening 20 to 30 years before you can feel them. And so I looked at that and I'm thinking, well, I mean, I can start now, but it'd make a lot more sense to me to have started helping him 20, 30 years ago. The bigger problem behind all these things was he lost what made him him. He lost his brain. And we showed a video here before we even started that talked about the life isn't about money or obtaining things. It's about being around the people that you care about and making an impact. And he worked his life off. He was a very successful businessman. Like I said, he was a professor, a PhD professor, and he retired a millionaire. And when he passed away, he had nothing left. The hard part with this is it drained him, my parents as well. We were spending $8,000 a month to keep him in a memory care center. Who has $8,000 a month to spare? You know what I mean? There's 3 different memory care centers, by the way, that have appeared in Powell in the last year. So this hits home to me. I don't want this to happen to you guys. So it keeps going up. So why do these problems keep going up? It's not that we're getting more brain disease, okay? Say it's not the disease. It's absolutely not. It's not your brain. It's our bodies. So what they've seen now is that there is a direct correlation between what I will call 21st century lifestyle and increase in Alzheimer's. So if you look back into the early 1900s, the number one way that you would die is you would actually have some type of infectious disease. Malaria, you get bit by a mosquito, something like that. We would die because we weren't even living to our full potential. We had too much disease process, meaning like infection. Once we got rid of that, all that's happened in the past 100 years is we've traded infectious disease for lifestyle-induced disease. So you could literally draw it on a map with the rate at which heart disease has increased, dementia has increased. It's directly correlated to heart disease. The same thing can be said with diabetes. Type 2 diabetes, which 35 million Americans have, 110 million Americans, so that's 1 out of 3 of us, have prediabetes. You could draw a line. It directly correlates with increase in diabetes. In fact, they're calling Alzheimer's disease type 3 diabetes. Those disease processes that happen inside of our body are the result of us not getting what we need to be healthy. And those same effects inside of our body directly affect our brain. So again, you could directly correlate those things. We're trading infectious disease for lifestyle-induced disease, and we're going to work on reversing it. I'm going to back up just for 1 second. So this is a cool video, just to kind of inspire you guys a little bit. This is what they're saying now are the things you can do to prevent brain fog and dementia. And this is what we're going to go through.
Now to the battle against Alzheimer's disease. A new study says making lifestyle changes today can make a big difference tomorrow. Here's Dr. John LaPook.
It's the most comprehensive report saying fighting dementia can start when you're young. In early life, maximize education. In middle age, aggressively treat hypertension, obesity, and hearing loss. And in later life, manage depression, diabetes, smoking, and loneliness. Dr. Richard Isaacson is director of the Alzheimer's Prevention Clinic at Weill Cornell Medicine at New York Presbyterian.
Alzheimer's starts in the brain 20 to 30 years before the first symptom of memory loss. And that leaves ample time to make a brain-healthy choice or to intervene in some way.
So get that 20 to 30 years. 20 to 30 years. So real quick, we're going to go through the problems. What's changed? I could have spent 30 minutes talking about what's changed, but I'm hoping you guys go with me on this a little bit. The biggest thing that's changed inside of our lives is the type of stress that we're experiencing. And what I don't mean by that is just like the fact that we have mental or emotional stress, or too much of that. Stress is anything inside of the body that takes us away from where we need to be. Stress is anything that takes us away from homeostasis. Who needs more stress in their life? Show of hands, yeah? No, so we all have stress. So here's some of the biggest things that we're going to go through today. What's happened inside of our lives? The important thing to understand with stress is not just emotional. We're talking mind, body, food today. Stress is your body not getting the proper foods it needs. That's a stress to your body. Stress is your body not moving properly. So we're going to talk about your body, how to move well on the inside. Your body is under stress just if you're not moving. And so people say, well, I don't have any stress in my life. And I'm thinking, well, maybe not emotional stress or mental stress, but do you eat well? Are you getting the proper nutrients that your brain needs to be healthy? Are you moving properly? Are you educating yourself? Are you doing all those things? You may not have emotional stress, but there's other forms of stress. The biggest ones I see, what we're going to talk about is healthy fats and omega-3 fatty acids. 70% of your brain is made up of healthy fat. And the problem is for years and years and decades, we've been told that fat is terrible for us. And only in recent years have we even been noticed at all that fat's actually healthy for us, but we're still not getting enough healthy fat inside of our body. We have sweeping changes in our overall diet and in our exercise habits, so our hormones are shot as a result of that. We'll talk about hormones today. And the last thing is we're not moving. 21st century problems have made us sessile. That's why you guys are going to get up every once in a while in here and shake it out and increase your brain-derived neurotrophic factor, which you'll be experts on by the time we leave here today, okay? So the problem with it is we have all this stress, and the reality is stress kills brain cells. And so when I said earlier that, I was afraid of the dark, I don't know what I did in my brain when I was 6 years old, spending all that time being afraid of the dark. But what I know now is that every time that we stress, it hurts us. And so literally, again, this is what I would call a Chuck stat. One of my mentors was Dr. Chuck Majors, and he would come up with these outlandish stats that nobody agreed with, but everyone just kind of assumed that they were true. We spend probably 92% of our lives worrying about things that, again, will never affect us or that we can't control. And so we need to work on getting rid of the stress, because stress, emotionally, mentally, nutritionally, environmentally, it kills us. So we got to work on getting better at it, okay? So there's 3 keys. I want you guys to write these down, 3 keys for a better brain. This is what we're going through today. Number 1 is how to think well. So it says not thinking well, but by the way, whenever you guys write notes in here, you have to change your mindset and how you write notes. So don't write people aren't thinking well or people need to think well. Write your notes in the first person. So whenever we start writing these things, it's very important to say like, I need to change this. I need to think well. I need to eat well. It's going to help put into perspective. When you're writing in the third person or even the second person, you're not correlating it to yourself. You're saying like all these other people need to do the right things. Make it about yourself. Someone told me that 5 years ago. It made a big difference. So 3 keys for a better brain. I need to think better. I need to move better. I need to eat better. And we're going to go through the specifics. But here's the problem with these things. So the problem right now is we have all these issues. And I see this all the time. We go to the doctors, and what do we end up walking out with when we go to doctors normally? Medication. So I consult with people all week. Probably maybe I'd say, 10% of the patients that I have come in are not on some type of medication. So 90% of people are. The problem now is that we have all these problems, and all of these things sound like a good idea, right? Like who thinks eating well, exercising, and thinking well are terrible ideas? Like no one, right? Like those, yeah, that makes total sense. But so why aren't we being told how impactful these things are on our lives? Why aren't we being told how proper nutrients can actually help our brain to stop from deteriorating? We're not told those things, and it drives me crazy. I look at the stats now, and it's 1 in 4 women in their 40s and 50s are taking an antidepressant medication. 1 in 5 people are on some type of psychotropic drug. 1 in 6 kids now are being diagnosed as ADD, ADHD. So I used to help in schools just a couple years ago, and I work with Paolo as well. But when I was a kid growing up, like we had literally like 1 room in the entire school. My mom was a special needs teacher, and we had 5 or 6 children in the special needs room. Alternative learning styles. And I know that there's more diagnosis happening now, but when I go into a school, there are 3 or 4 full classrooms of this. Like it's changed so much. And so the problem is not that we're not taking enough medications, and we're not getting educated properly. But I have a huge problem when it comes to it because in our life, we're not finding the cause. We're not getting down to the cause. This is what I get to deal with. Do any of you guys watch Shark Tank? Have any of you guys seen that before? So this is what I saw on the other day, and it ticked me off. It kind of summed up like what I'm talking about, and I'll let you guys.
My name is Joe Moore. I am the president and CEO of the First Defense Nasal Screen Corporation. Message, slide it around the outside, slide it around the inside.
Joe, let me ask you a question. Why not just go license it to one of the big drug companies?
Because I did that originally. I went to one of the biggest in the United States, and they told me we were actually a competitor, and if they took the product, they would shelf it. Because why would they prevent it for $1 when they could treat it for 14?
Yep. So people are like, what? So that was a First Defense Nasal Screens Corporation. So it's literally a screen you can put on your nose for, it's basically to be used for highly industrialized areas. And so in New York, it's huge in the Middle East. Basically, it's an antibacterial, antiviral layer that helps prevent ingestion of toxins. So he developed cancer. We're not actually going through toxicity today, but he developed cancer. He developed those, and he found that it greatly reduced it. And on the show, they were actually making fun of him. They were like, no one's going to wear these. And do they even work? And he said, I work with companies in the Middle East, and I had a company, they bought $10 million worth of these. He actually turned down all of their deals because they didn't believe him, and he's a $1 billion industry right now for it. And so, but the thing that makes me mad is, he was shelved. They told him, you found something that can actually help people, we're going to shelve it. And this is the problem I have is we get irritated that we don't have enough information, that we don't know how to make things. So like when I have patients come in, for example, and they're on medications, one of the things that I do for them is I'll go online and I'll try to look up the side effects. And so, you used to be able to go onto the first page and find side effects of medications. You can't even do it anymore. I'm finding myself going to the third, fourth, fifth page just to find side effects of information. The problem is, you guys have ever heard of search engine optimization? That's like how people market online. Basically, there's so much marketing when it comes to healthcare. Anything that you see on the first 2 pages are all paid results. You can't find true actual data or information, or if you want to, you could actually go to like the drug manufacturer site and they'll say, oh, well, the side effects are mild. There's really nothing to worry about. You know what I mean? But you're not going to find the actual ones from the testing until you get to page 3, 4, or 5. The problem is we've been lied to. We've never been told what health actually is, and that's what we're going to go through. This is lobbying dollars. I don't want to like beat a dead horse with talking about medication, but lobbying dollars in the past 20 years. The biggest one is pharmaceuticals. Everything else is below it. So why would we hear about food? Why would we hear that exercise actually helps your brain? In exercise, they've proven this, that for brain-derived neurotrophic factor, exercise is the only thing that actually helps it. Did you guys know that? They did 93 drug trials of all these different things. They were trying to increase this one specific hormone in the brain, and they had this rat running on a wheel. They're like, he's the placebo. And he was the one who was the best out of the entire group, okay? So let's talk about food. So we're going to get engaging here real quick. I want you guys to shout some things out. So I'm going to show you, this is a patient who I had come in. Her name and identity have been protected, so I'm using a stock image of her. But so this is a diet that she told me that she was going through right now. And so I want you guys to shout out things. It doesn't look like the worst diet in the world, but this is the problem that I get with a lot of people, is we tend to think that we're doing all right. We get fooled by deceptive marketing practices, food marketing practices, whatever it has, and then we're eating something like, well, I'm not eating that bad. You know what I mean? So just looking at this, and we'll go through it together, just shout it out. What do you think is not right with her diet, with what she's eating? What food is she putting in her body that's not good for her? So grains, okay. Fat-free. Who said almonds? Fat-free, okay. Fat-free. Chips, okay, the low fat, yep. Juice. What else did I hear? Someone said chicken? Yes, the meat. No, so we'll talk about meat. I'm not a vegetarian, don't worry. I'm not going to make you guys all be vegetarians if you're not. What'd you say? Chips, cereal. Cereal's in the grains. A lot of processed food. I like it. Okay, cool. See? I could have spent an hour on this. You guys know a lot. See? Just saved you guys time. Okay. These are all the things that we're going to talk about. Because the reality is that, if I were never have talked to Brittany or sat down with her, she's like, I do a pretty good job. She's like, I have a green juice in the morning, or I'll have pomegranate juice, which is really good for you. You know what I mean? Pomegranate juice has like the highest content of antioxidants on the planet. I have some whole grain cereal on the box. What is whole grain cereal supposed to lower? Cholesterol, right? So I'm doing well with that. I have a snack. I do a nice granola bar. And hey, it's the kind that has no high fructose corn syrup, no added sugar whatsoever. I do dark chocolate almonds. With lunch, I have a chicken breast. I have a salad. I'm eating salad for lunch. You know what I mean? Like I've got greens, dinner. So what? I have some chips. You know what I mean? Who doesn't? And then I've got low-fat tuna on rye, so I'm getting fish. You know what I mean? I look at this at first, and 10 years ago, I just said, teach me. You know what I mean? Like, I want to know. The problem is this, and we're going to go through all of this. The green superfood juice that she's taking, it's mostly constituted of apple juice, which is 30, 40, 50 grams of sugar per serving. The pomegranate juice that she has on the back of the label, pomegranate is actually the last ingredient. She's not actually getting pomegranates. And have you guys ever seen that before? You like read something, you turn the back of the label, and you're like, what the heck? Where is it? You know what I mean? I used to put the slide up here, but like strawberry milkshakes at Burger King, I've downloaded the ingredient list. There's no strawberries. A lot of things you can't pronounce, not a single strawberry in sight. Snacks are the same way. So she has a granola bar. So again, granola is more grain. We're going to talk about grain. Yeah, great. It has no high fructose corn syrup or added sugar, but it's got 30 grams without even trying. Same thing with dark chocolate covered almonds. She thinks that dark chocolate is good, which dark chocolate is good, but the problem is dark is only an illusion. There's actually no high cocoa content in there. Cocoa is like the number one, the highest antioxidant food as far as like foods are concerned, not berries, on the planet, and she's getting only 10% of it. You know what I mean? So just dark in color, but not dark in constituency. So it's kind of a trick for you guys, because we look at some of these things and we don't realize what's underlying it. For lunch, she has a chicken breast. It's conventional chicken. And so it's not organic. She's getting none of the healthy omega-3 fats that she has. And chicken breasts are also, they're very low in fat as well. So again, she hasn't gotten fat yet. Not fat in her, fat in the food. Lunch, so she's got salad with a fat-free vinegar dressing. So there's a lot of added ingredients in there, because when you remove fat, you remove what? Flavor, right? So it tastes bland. So we're doing a lot of additives in there. Dinner, low-fat tuna, we'll go through that. Salad on rye, which is more bread and more chips. So the problem is that she's doing a lot of things backwards. We'll go through that stuff later. Here's the problems. Her first big issue is fat. And I know I talk about fat, but I'm going to go over how important it is, because we're still not eating enough of it. She's got too much sugar, and she's really devoid of a certain amount of key nutrients that help her brain function properly, okay? Because of all the processed food, she's not getting the stuff that she needs, okay? So we're going to walk through all these together. The first thing is with fat, okay? Who knows that fat is good? I want to see everyone's hand. Like, do you think fat is actually healthy or bad? Healthy? Healthy, okay, bad. A lot of fat's bad? Okay, you're both right. So healthy fats, okay? Inside of your body, this is the outer layer of every single one of the cells inside of your body. You need fat to build cell membranes. The only thing that makes a cell wall inside of your body is fat. The 2 layers of it, not just one. It's double layer, double phospholipid bilayer. So you need fat for that. It helps you absorb vitamins, A, D, E, K, your vitamins that you need, especially vitamin D, which we'll talk about. You have to have fat inside of your body in order to have that. I said earlier that omega-3 fatty acids, they make up 70% of your brain tissue. Like moms who are having kids, guess what your babies take from you? All of your omega-3 fats. They take all of it, because they need to develop a brain. And it's better that you go than them. So they're going to take them all from you. Cushions your vital organs. It protects you from temperatures, regulates hormones. Healthy fat lowers inflammations. I want to give you guys just a perspective on this. So they're doing so many research trials now on figuring out why people develop dementia and Alzheimer's, and they've actually finally started to do nutritional testing. So this is after years of going through everything. They had a vaccine for Alzheimer's, actually. It made it all the way to phase 2 trials. Of the 300 people they tested for, 57 of them started developing seizures. And so the problem is you can't fake this stuff. Like you need the nutrients. There's no replacement for it. And so what they found was with people, they started giving them a healthy fat diet. And if you guys want to watch more on this, there's a whole HBO special. There's 4 hours. I watched it the other night. I was up to like 2 a.m. My wife was mad at me. So they basically talked about it. They said, well, we started actually giving them like just healthy fats just to try it, just to see could that help. And they said we took people and we gave them about 1 gram of DHA, which is a type of omega-3 fat, which we're going to go through today. We gave them 1 gram a day, 6 months. It was the most astounding change they had ever seen in brain health. People had a 7-year reduction in cognitive problems after 6 months of taking a fish oil pill. You know what I mean? And we're sitting here thinking like, we're doomed, my brain's not working properly, I'm developing plaques in my brain, what have you. And they're saying, no, in 6 months, we can reverse 7 years of cognitive decline just by getting you guys the right foods that you need, which is healthy omega-3 fatty acids. Is that crazy? No, it's not, see? It should be. So sugar, the same thing. She's getting too much sugar. I mapped out her diet, and this is basically what it looked like as far as macronutrients were concerned. She was about 10 to 20% fat. She was getting a good amount of, I'll put protein in here, about 25% protein. So where did all of her diet come from, even though she didn't think it? Sugar, right? So she had 20, let's just say this, she had about 55, we'll just say as a low ball. That's how much sugar's in her diet. So the problem is she's getting way too much of that. And to go back to this, so this is her. These are her workout habits. So she works out like an hour a week, mostly on the treadmill. For work, she's sitting at a desk. She has a lot of stress in her life. There are times when you need sugar, okay? If you're running from a bear, your body's going to make a lot of sugar inside of your body so you can run from a bear. But the problem is this is sugar, if you think about sugar, sugar is instant energy, okay? She's sitting at a desk 8 hours a day. Do you think she needs a whole lot of instant energy? No. So what's happening to all that sugar that she's eating and not burning? Yeah, it's hanging out. It's hanging out. Have you guys ever heard of winter before? We have like that famine, that season where there's no food around. You guys ever have that at your house? No. We eat more in the winter now than you know what I mean? Like, so we don't have winter anymore. Our body is designed, if we're eating bunches of excess calories, our body is designed to store them for winter that we never get anymore. The problem is when you have long-term sugar ingestion like that, it directly affects your hormone levels. It increases your cortisol. Cortisol is the stress hormone inside of your body. If a bear walked in this room right now, all of our cortisol levels would shoot through the roof. Great in the short term for survival, terrible in the long term. High cortisol levels decrease your brain chemistry. They cause degradation inside of your brain. It decreases your serotonin levels, which are your feelings of calm, so it makes you super jittery. Decreases your dopamine levels, meaning you can't relax, you can't go to bed at night. Insulin resistance, so get this, so people who have sugar problems for a long time, they develop type 2 diabetes, right? So insulin resistance, they've done studies on this, they show that it increases your risk of developing dementia and Alzheimer's by 75%. It's a scary thing, right? I said 1 in 10 people in America has type 2 diabetes. The thing beyond that is 1 out of 3 of us are pre-diabetic and we do not even know it. Most everyone who's pre-diabetic has no idea of it. But if you have chronic brain fog, fatigue, lethargy, it's hard to get energy, it's a bottom dollar warning sign that you probably are developing or leaning towards having insulin problems inside of your body. So we got to work on cutting the sugar out. So basis analysis for this, so how to recognize healthy fat at the grocery store is you look at the front of the label first, okay? If you see an animated cartoon image, put it down and walk away. It is not worth it, just let it go, okay? So the first way to recognize healthy fat is look at the front. The more attractive the marketing, typically the worse the product is. Now, I say this, but that's really probably 2 years ago information. Companies are totally on that now. They're putting everything in brown paper bags. They're making it look rustic, like the farmer just literally just picked it up off the block and just set it there for you and put it in a towel. So we're kind of getting away from this, but still a lot of times cartoon characters are bad for your health. So how to recognize a bad fat. When you turn to the back, you're going to look here. Now ingredients, they're written by weight. So the heaviest ingredient, the one that has the most constituency, is going to be at the top, and then it kind of trickles on down from there. Okay, so whenever you're reading this, anytime that you see anything like hydrogenated, partially hydrogenated, those are all trans fats. So some of you guys raised your hand to say, yes, fats are bad. There are certain fats that are bad, and one of them are trans fatty acids, which are things like hydrogenated vegetable oils. First and foremost, how much fat do vegetables have? None, right? So first and foremost, so vegetables don't have fat. So how do we have hydrogenated vegetable oil? That's a misnomer in and of itself. The second thing is anything that's been altered by man is not good for us. I will say that with full confidence in reading everything, that we have all these things that we think are amazing. We're not better than God when it comes to making food. I'm sorry. If it grows in the ground, eat it. If it's made in a lab, it's probably going to kill you, okay? And that's the same thing with hydrogenated vegetable oils. The only reason that these are allowed in here is because of the law on trans fats that says that we can have less than 0.5 gram of trans fats per serving, and if we have less than 0.5 gram of trans fats per serving, then we can put it in there. And so the serving size for Skippy now is like 2 tablespoons, which will cover not even like a half a corner of your bread. You know what I mean? So we've just changed things around. Still the bad fats are out there. We'll go through the best fats. These are writer-downers. Whenever we talk about healthy fatty acids, and I'll go through these in the next slides, you want to get as much omega-3 fatty acids as possible. So the problem is when we're eating sugars or refined foods, even the fats that we're getting are mostly contained of something called omega-6 fats. You guys have heard of those before, right? We need omega-6 fats. I'm not saying we don't, but we don't need them in these ratios. Typically, for every gram of omega-6 fatty acids we should have a gram of omega-3 fatty acids, okay? So 1 for 1, right? Say 1 for 1. 1 for 1. Currently, right now, the average American diet is 20 to 1, okay? So it's way too much omega-6 fatty acids. Those are not used for brain development. They are useful in some terms in our body, but when they're this high, it causes inflammation in our body again. So you need balance with it. So goal I'm going to give for everyone, because I've never met a human being who's gotten too much omega-3 fatty acids. I've never read about it. People are always like, well, how much fish oil is too much? If you have a bad diet, you take the whole bottle on a daily basis. I'm not joking. I'm not joking. You need literally probably 30 to 40 grams of omega-3 fatty acids per day. That's a bottle. So you need a ton. So my goal is, I'll tell you guys some supplements, but I don't want you to take any supplements if you're not going to work on changing your diet. Because if you do, all you're going to have is expensive urine, because it's not going to make the difference, okay? So you got to get the healthier stuff in there, right? So the best fats to eat, we talked about meat, so you want to stay away from processed meat. The hard thing with this is anytime that you're eating out, you're going to get processed meat, okay? We have a guide for you guys in here. We actually have called restaurants and we eat out. And so we actually made like a healthy restaurant guide for you guys that's in your packet. So it'll actually tell you the places that you can actually find healthy meats when you're eating out. But by and large, you've got to start cooking for yourself and start planning ahead. Meats make a huge difference. So an industrialized meat product, like for example, grain-raised beef, the fatty acid ratio is pretty much exactly 20 to 1. When you start getting grass-fed beef, it's 1.7 to 1. So it's almost an even ratio of 1 to 1, which is what we want in there. So you're eating food that's actually making you healthier. What a novel concept, right? Yeah? So grass-fed meat products is one. Eggs, there's always been a debate to do I eat the yolk? Do I eat the white? Eat the whole egg. The whole thing is good for you. Have you guys ever met the comedian Louis Black? You guys ever heard of him before? He's like, so I was eating eggs for a long time, and then scientists came out and said eggs are bad, so I didn't eat them for like 2 years, and then they came out and said, no, well, they're good again. And he said, well, no, now I'm really bad. So I ate twice as many, and then they said they were bad again, and I was like, well, now I'm really screwed. So it was like, so the science is there, eat the whole egg. In fact, the yolk of the egg contains half the protein and all of the nutrients. So if you're throwing away the yolk, or you're buying egg whites thinking that you're doing better for yourself, you're just throwing away half the egg, and actually like the better part of the egg. So you need everything inside of there. Go ahead.
I was told that what's going on with me, my cholesterol is high.
I'm going to talk about that. I have 6 slides on cholesterol. Don't you worry. We're going to get to that right after this, I promise you. So we're going to talk about cholesterol with fat. I can't wait. I'm excited. I'll see you in 5 minutes. If I don't get them all answered, I will answer all your questions. I promise you on that. So the next things, these are your seeds. Flax seeds, chia seeds, it's not in there, but hemp seeds, those are the amazing seeds to take. Walnuts, macadamia nuts, you want the healthiest nuts possible. I don't have a lot of beef against almonds, but just to say, they have no omega-3s. Sorry, almonds, who get all the notoriety, they get all the fame for nuts, and they're not the healthiest nut. They're not even close. You can have some, but don't make your diet entirely almonds, okay? Coconuts. Coconut contains something called medium chain triglycerides. It's like rocket fuel for your body. It's one of the healthiest fats you can get. Olive oil, avocado oil, those are great cooking oils. And then fish. So one of the problems with what Brittany was eating was she was having low-fat tuna. And so tuna's not the best fish in the world. It does have more mercury, but even within that, they drained the fat out of the tuna. Like the only healthy part of it. Yes? Oh, coconut oil is not an omega-3 oil. Coconut oil is defined as a medium chain triglyceride. So medium chain triglycerides inside of your body, they're literally used like rocket fuel. You can't store medium chain triglycerides as fat inside of your body. Medium chain triglycerides, when you eat them, like when you eat coconut oil, it goes directly into your portal vein, which is like your hepatic system. It goes directly into your bloodstream and you burn it for energy. So it's not an omega-3 in that it's used for brain health, but it's used for, your body uses it basically for cardiovascular health, for energy, because again, you only burn two things for energy. You burn fats and sugars. And most of us, if all we're getting is sugar, we're sugar burners, but you can actually burn fat properly for energy, and that's one of the best ways to do it, okay? Question? Brazil nuts are good. They're not quite as high as walnuts or macadamia nuts, but they're still pretty good through there, okay? So more fats. So this is something I've never talked about before. So if we want to get more fats in our body, really the whole idea is getting more omega-3s. Those things that I talked about are good. Yes? I don't like soybean oil. Most soybean oil in America is of genetically modified origin, first and foremost. Secondly, soybean oil contains lots of phytoestrogens. So phytoestrogens, if consumed too much, they mimic estrogen inside of the body. So when estrogen goes up, it decreases your testosterone levels, so it creates problems inside of your body. So I recommend against soy products in general. The reason we get too much soy is it's basically in every single packaged food we have. It's cheap, it's a great additive, it looks good on a nutritional chart that only tells you what protein it has, because soy does have good protein in it, but really it's not a very good food to eat a lot of. So that's why I don't recommend using soybean oil, okay? So whenever we're going through omega-3 fatty acids, there are a couple specific types of omega-3s that are better than others. The best types of omega-3 fatty acids are EPA and DHA. So these are the ones that your body actually uses to build a brain. The actual structure of your brain is built from EPA and DHA. There's a difference between EPA and DHA and ALA. I know this is a lot of acronyms, and I hate to speak in terms of acronyms, but ALA is called alpha-lipoic acid. To make it easy for you guys, EPA and DHA are omega-3s that are found from animal sources. ALA is found from vegetarian sources. So like you're going to see lots of ALA inside of flax seeds and chia seeds and hemp seeds, okay, which have tons of omega-3s. They actually have more omega-3s per gram than any other food on the planet. The difference is this, though, and this is why, like people I talk to who are vegetarians, they have a lot of struggles getting enough omega-3 fatty acids inside of their body, because again, vegetarian sources like alpha-lipoic acid, they're not converted to the body into EPA and DHA at very good ratios. In fact, in men, only 8% of ALA becomes DHA, none, 0% can actually become EPA. In women, the same thing, so it's a little bit better. Women are a little bit more efficient than guys. 9 to 21% of the ALA they take in can become EPA or DHA, and only 4% can become EPA. So they've shown that if you actually get enough omega-3s inside of your body, it lowers your dementia risk by 47%. Just getting the healthy fats inside of your body, 39% lowers your risk of developing Alzheimer's disease. But again, it's the right fats. It's like I talk about our supplement. I had a patient come in the other day, and this happens all the time, is we hear, oh, fish oils are good, right? So we go out and get fish oil. But the problem is we buy maybe the cheap one or the middle grade one. We don't really look at the back. And so I'll tell you what to look for when you're actually getting a fish oil, because we've changed the one that I actually sell like 3 years in a row. I've changed it to finally find a good one. It should have almost only EPA and DHA in it. So the problem is you buy a cheap fish oil and it's packed with something called ALA, and you're like, oh my God, it's got 3 grams of omega-3s per serving. It's higher than anything else out there. But the problem is they used ALA. They used a vegetarian form of omega-3 fatty acids. So if you're a guy, you're only getting 8% of that. That makes sense? See how crazy that is, how backwards that is? Because they're cheaper. So again, it's all about the source that you're getting it from. When you're looking at a fish oil, like if you're taking one, for example, it should be almost all EPA and DHA. There shouldn't be anything else. So for years, we had a fish oil that was like a 4-to-1 ratio. So it was 4 parts omega-6 to 1 part omega-3. And they said, well, that's like what you need to be sufficient. And I kept doing blood tests on people and saying, well, I'm not finding anyone sufficient. You know what I mean? Like everyone's deficient in it, so why would I even give them omega-6s? And then we got a 2-to-1, and now we only do EPA and DHA. That's it. You're going to get enough omega-6s in your diet unless you eat an absolutely perfect diet. So my recommendation, you get more EPA and DHA than anything else, okay? All right, let's talk cholesterol. So because I say that and everyone's like, but my cholesterol, my doctor said it's got to be low fat, whole grains, all of those things, right? We've heard all of those things. This is a study, this is a 10-year research study on cholesterol in mortality risk algorithms. So they looked at people who died, and they mapped their cholesterols, and they found that we need to change the recommendations of how we evaluate cholesterol. They've actually found that moderately elevated cholesterol may not prove to be harmful, but actually beneficial inside of our bodies. Why is that? What is cholesterol there for? Cholesterol is a wound healing process inside of our body. Cholesterol we do not get from our diet, okay? 0 to 5% of the cholesterol that is inside of our body is from our diet, meaning you could eat all the eggs that you wanted. It's not going to do anything to raise your cholesterol. Your body regulates its own cholesterol levels inside of its liver in response to stress. So for example, I have patients who come in who are fighting cancer, and their cholesterol levels are in the 300s or 400s. Is that a good or a bad thing? Cholesterol is vital for wound healing. Their body is working to fight cancer. Their cholesterols are 300 to 400. Is that good or bad? Is your body doing the right thing every time? Yes. It's the whole idea. Your body is, that's the thing that drives me crazy. This is the whole idea, that the philosophy that needs to change inside of our body is we think our bodies are dumb. You know what I mean? We've been trained to think, no, our bodies are bad. You know what I mean? Like, cholesterol is terrible for you. Why would my body make more cholesterol? It's doing the right thing. Okay, our bodies, cholesterols are made in response to stress. So if we have low cholesterol, they've shown that more people die with low cholesterol than with high cholesterol. In dementia risk, people who have low cholesterol, cholesterol also feeds your brain, they have higher rates of dementia and Alzheimer's, people who have low cholesterol. So why would I want to just focus all day on lowering a number on a test? Why would I rather focus on what you need to be healthy? The problem is not cholesterol. We'll go through this. So they've actually changed their position on dietary cholesterol. The American Heart Association has. And what they've said now is that 200 is not the benchmark. They said that we're going to allow for variation, especially with environmental processes. So what used to happen is you would go in no matter what. If you had high cholesterol, you were getting a statin medication. And it used to be, 30 years ago, it was 240. And then it went to 220, and then it went to 200, and they started to say 180. And then they started finding out that people were dying with low cholesterol levels inside of their body, okay? It's vital. It makes hormones inside of your body. It's a precursor to making testosterone. You look at longevity studies, and one of the most important things is seeing high testosterone levels for a long period of time because it naturally declines with age. Testosterone helps make muscle, which we'll talk about later on. It makes bile acids. It's for neurological function. Your body absolutely needs cholesterol. The problem is not cholesterol. The problem is when you have too much cholesterol being made in an unhealthy body. What cholesterol is designed to do is to heal wounds. And so if inside of your body, you're toxic, or you're in lack of antioxidants, or if you're not getting the nutrients you need to have a healthy cardiovascular system, you'll develop little micro traumas inside of your body when you move or bend. You'll actually develop micro cracks inside of your arteries. Cholesterol's not dumb. Cholesterol's smart. What does cholesterol do to a wound? It heals it, right? So it goes in there. So the problem is it's doing the right thing, but the oxidation of that cholesterol is what leads to heart disease over time. It's not the cholesterol. It's the fact that it's proper amount of cholesterol in an unhealthy body. Okay? So it's about getting everything else right, not just trying to artificially, lower your cholesterol, because that's not the problem. It's the health of the body. Okay? So like Crestor, for example, and you guys have seen these commercials with this nice lady talking, right? Cholesterol lowers the bad cholesterol. Is there really bad cholesterol? No. The bad cholesterol, they say, are the ones that go to the wound site. And they say the good ones are the ones that go to the wound site and take stuff out. They're both necessary. There's a cycle. You know what I mean? It's not bad. And so the problem is that. And so, so you look at these things and it's like, Crestor, it'll lower your cholesterol, but it's not been shown at all to prevent heart disease or heart attacks. Doesn't reduce your risk for those, okay? It's just helping you look better on a test. It's the problem if your host is not healthy, okay? So let's talk about it. So why do we have too much sugar? Why do we have too much inflammation? We all know pop's bad, or Coke, where I grew up, whatever it's called. It's way too much, right? But so we have all these other little things that drive me crazy because I don't think anyone dares come into my office with a 32 ounce of Coke. You know what I mean? Like it's happened once, and I'll throw it away. I'm just letting you guys know. You guys pay me for this stuff. I'm here to help you. So this is the problem. So we have Sobe, like green tea, for example. You could also bring in a half a cherry pie, and I would look at you the same way. That's ridiculous, right? You could bring in a Rockstar energy drink, or you could bring in half a dozen donuts. It's the same. It's the same. And the worst one So the worst one? Oh. You could bring in a quart of ice cream, and I look at you the same way, okay? You're not fooling me with your fancy coffee with the brim on it and all this stuff. It's 100 grams. 100 grams of sugar. It's like lunch. It's like liquid lunch. It's ridiculous. I mean, you can look in, and so you've got to be really specific when it comes to your diet and constantly work on these things, okay? It's so easy to just assume that companies have our best interests or that we're getting the right stuff, especially when it comes to things like coffee. Because when did coffee ever have sugar until we had, like these big, it was like black, and you determine, and a packet of sugar is 4 grams. And so no one puts in 16 packets of sugar, but you could drink it from Starbucks and be like, oh, it's good. It's got caffeine, I need it, you know what I mean? So, because my body's not making enough energy, so I need caffeine. I'm on like, it's like a drip. So these are some of the other things too, like it's in everything. Jif and Welch's and peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, on average 35 grams of sugar. It's a can of Coke. With not a lot of nutrients either, because those are like devoid of nutrients, especially white bread. Prego, the same thing. It's like 7 grams of sugar. Yoplait yogurt, little 6-ounce yogurts, twice the amount of sugar content per 6 ounces as Coke. It's twice, double. Peanuts, the same thing.
Represents 1 gram?
Yeah, no, 4. Yep. 4 grams of sugar per cube. The peanuts, the same thing. If you're doing any nuts, again, the closer they are to their natural state, the better. So nuts, for example, when you roast them, you really rob them of their healthy fatty acids. And then when you cover them in sugar, it doesn't help either. So these are all the different ways that you can find sugar, like when it comes to labeling of foods. And I know that this stuff gets confusing. That's why you guys have a sign-up list in here. The design of this right here, we're going to actually collect this like not at the end, like halfway through the second session. So if these are things that you guys want to come through, we want you guys to put them on here, okay? So like we're going to show you how to do all this stuff. We have a grocery store tour coming up next Saturday. It's at Whole Foods. We're going to teach you how to actually identify these things. So if you want to come to those things, put your name down and put any guests. You guys being in here today get first crack at this, so it will fill up. Like we can only fit like 30, 35 people usually before they kick us out. So but if you want to come to that, put your names down in here, and we'll work on these things with you as well. Point being, though, is that sugar is it's disguised so many ways. You're not going to look on the back of a product and it's going to say like sugar #1 content. It's like 4 different places. So like you'll have it'll say wheat and then sugar and then high fructose corn syrup and then molasses somewhere. And then you'll have cornstarch, then you'll have dextrose. And by the time it's done, half of your ingredients are containing sugar. So you got to be really careful when you're getting products and decreasing the sugar, okay? Inside of your body, this is what happens. So the reason that sugar causes diabetes, the reason that it causes Alzheimer's as well, is that normally speaking inside of a body, your body should be able to take in and out sugar, and the more that we eat it, it's like an annoying kid knocking on your door every single day. You answer it for a while, you shoo them away, and eventually you just start ignoring them, right? The same thing happens inside of your body when you're just loading yourself day in, day out, inundating yourself with it because you're not getting enough healthy fats. Your body starts ignoring it. And so those same glucose molecules that travel into the brain, your brain does the same thing. So glucose is actually vital for brain functioning chemistry. Your body can actually convert fat into sugar to make that happen as well. Most of us don't get to that point where just you relying on sugar, but the problem is your brain develops the same resistance for glucose that your cells do inside of your body. And this is why your brain starts to degrade, is it's not getting the nutrients that it needs. Does that make that Starbucks sound better? Right? So you guys have to, I don't drink coffee at all, so like I have no like crux to it, so like I just destroy coffee, sorry. You can actually have coffee all you want, just keep it devoid of 95 grams of sugar, please. So the ideal plan, in putting this all together, what does it need to look like? Inside of your diet, you need to really work on increasing your healthy fat consumption. So your healthy fat in your diets, and there's a lot of research you guys can look up. There's places called blue zones all around the world where people eat this type of diet, and blue zones are the areas where there are higher concentrations of people over 100 than any other place on earth. And so when I look to like people who are doing it right, I look to those areas. Most of their diet consists of healthy fatty acids, whether it be from animal products or from seeds and nuts. That's where most of their diet comes from. They have less sugar overall, so they have less carbohydrates, less intake of that. Maybe 10 to 25% of their diet is actually carbohydrate consumption. Then clean protein, they're getting 15 to 25%. 15 to 25% of their protein are clean fuels around everything, okay? So that's the goal. Increase what? Fat. Decrease what? Sugar. And then clean proteins to your diet, okay? If you look them up online, Vilcabamba is a region like in South America. There's a couple regions in Italy. There's actually one in California. They're not entire countries. They're like small regions inside of countries. But if you look them up online, there's a ton of them. There's like maybe 20 or 30 around the world. Type in blue zones online, and you'll find those areas. There's so many articles written on them, like what they do. And a lot of what we model is that. I mean, those people, like they have no such thing as retirement. So they work until like the day they die. They have a huge purpose. They have a big why when it comes to their life. Like you talk to most of them and they're like, no, I'm not going to die so I can teach my grandkids what I know. Like they're all about passing on information, yes.
What's a clean protein?
Clean proteins. So clean proteins are your sources of protein. So like for your meats, for example, clean sources would be organic chicken, grass-fed beef, wild-caught fish. So it's the same things you eat, they just have to be from healthy sources, meaning you can't get tilapia that's been fed corn its entire life and expect to get healthy omega-3 fatty acids. You're going to eat corn. You're eating cereal. You've got to get healthy sources that are clean. So it's all about the source where they come from, okay? So the last thing we'll talk about, and then we'll take a little bit of a break here, key brain deficiencies. These are the most common ones that lead to memory loss, fatigue, hormone imbalance. Vitamin D is the number one, far and away. You guys have heard of vitamin D before, right? Vitamin C and E, the antioxidants. We need tons of those. The problem is we're not getting them anymore. Most conventional oranges inside of the grocery store have 0 grams of vitamin C anymore. CoQ10, B vitamins. We're going to go through these too, so you don't have to write them all down now. B vitamins and folate. Number one deficiency in women, magnesium, and then our gut health. We got to get more probiotics in. Those are the number one deficiencies, though. I'm going to go through what they are and how much you need of all of these to be sufficient in your daily lifestyle. So the first one, vitamin D. Who hasn't heard of vitamin D? Has everyone pretty much heard of it before? Seen a commercial on it now? Seen Dr. Oz talk about it? Vitamin D is not actually a vitamin inside of your body. It's a hormone, okay? So vitamin D allows your brain to function properly, and vitamin D is directly responsible for immune health. So what I never talk about, and again, this is the whole philosophy, is I'm not telling you to take something to artificially make something in your body do something it's not. That's biohacking. It doesn't really work long term. These are key deficiencies that you have inside of your body where if you don't have them, your body can't produce the hormones, can't have the immune system it needs to actually fight off infection and keep you healthy. So vitamin D has been associated with decreasing your risk of 12 different types of cancer, including breast cancer, Hodgkin's, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, colon cancer, testicular cancer, all of those things. It's directly also correlated to your gut health. People who have low vitamin D levels, it's weird. It's like it's a vitamin that's in your gut, and people who are deficient in vitamin D have higher rates of type 2 diabetes. How does that happen? You know what I mean? It's all innate. Your body has to have these nutrients in order to be healthy. So how much vitamin D do you need? Most people, the average person that I see who takes a test, they're below 30. And if you're below 30, you're not really reducing your risk for anything. So the ideal blood concentration that you need of vitamin D if you're doing a test is at minimum 50 to 70, what are called nanograms per deciliter. That's how it's written. So you need 50 to 70 units of vitamin D inside of your blood. Most of us get to 20 based on the fact that the average person takes in 400 to 800 units a day. You need more. You need like 5,000 at minimum, especially if you're under stress. And on top of that, especially, where's the number one place you get vitamin D from? Does anyone know? From the sunlight, right? So if you're inside all day, sorry, I'm keeping you in here. I'm killing you guys. So if you're inside all day, if you have a desk job, if you're in a cubicle or at work, 10 hours under the sun, and you get 20 minutes of sun exposure from your arm on the commute home, like that's not enough. You know what I mean? Or you get 10 minutes outside on a Saturday morning, it's not enough. So if you're not outside all the time, getting direct, it's torso exposure is actually the areas where you have the most vitamin D receptors in your body. It's not on your arms. You need to add vitamin D in. We're not doing what we needed to do, again, from like a hunter-gatherer society to get the vitamin D that we needed in, okay? Next one's vitamin D. 95% of women are deficient in vitamin D. It's one of the highest causes of depression. The reason why is it causes problems with cortisol. That should say increases cortisol levels, sorry, not decreases. But it's linked to so many things. Inside of your body, you have this thing called your mitochondria that actually produce energy inside of your body. Almost every single step requires vitamin B in order for your body to produce adequate amounts of energy. So people who don't get enough vitamin B, they're lethargic, they have fatigue. It's directly linked to obesity, directly linked to depression. And they've done studies on this. So mental clarity and focus. People who have lower vitamin B12 levels, it's directly associated with an increased risk of Alzheimer's disease. So if you're not getting the B vitamins, your body's not producing the energy it needs, your brain's not getting the motion it needs to actually be healthy and function properly, okay? CoQ10, vitamin CoQ10 is also known as ubiquinol. This is one of our main antioxidants. It prevents against DNA damage. So inside of your brain, what dementia and Alzheimer's literally is that your DNA strands start to unravel. The proteins that connect your DNA strands together, they start to break off and they form these little streaks or plaques inside of your brain. And so literally CoQ10 antioxidants are what prevent against brain or DNA unraveling. They prevent against the damage with that. This is also what helps you get oxygen to your brain.
So can you OD on it?
No, it's very hard to overdose on CoQ10. There's a reason why is this, because from like our daily food intakes, which like these are some foods that are high in CoQ10, like broccoli, cruciferous vegetables, cauliflower, chicken, your berries, still the average daily intake for a person is around 3 to 6 milligrams a day, when our needs are around 60 milligrams per day. A lot of people are on statin medications. Statins have directly been shown to inhibit your body from processing CoQ10 or making CoQ10, where it's made in some part in your liver. And deficiency in it leads to heart disease, hypertension, dementia, early aging, cancer. Any patients I have who have high blood pressure, they're on this. Deficiency will raise your blood pressure 5 to 10% just off the bat, just if you're not getting enough CoQ10 inside of your diet. Yes?
I've seen 2 different kinds. Is there a synthetic form?
It should be ubiquinol or ubiquinone. They're the same. It's the same. Yeah, it's the same one either way. You'll also see it called CoQ10. It's the same through there. Yes.
If your blood pressure is too low, does that mean you're getting too much of that?
No, typically not. The only reason I say that is because most people are at 10% of what they need on a daily basis. So too much of it doesn't cause lower blood pressure. You'll just be sufficient, if that makes sense, yes. Magnesium, I think that's the last one we'll talk about, and probiotics. Magnesium is vital for muscle tone. So whenever people come in and they're like chronically stressed, it ends up causing magnesium deficiency. Inside of your body, we all have muscles, right? Everybody do this? Make some muscles. Wake up. So we're almost ready for our break. Magnesium is vital for muscle tone. So anytime that you have a magnesium deficiency in your body, if you think about all of your muscles looking like this, so whenever you like flex your arm, for example, all the muscles coil and bend and contract like this. Magnesium is actually the enzyme that goes in that breaks your muscles down and allows them to relax again. So lack of magnesium, we're tight, right? So who gets like stressed through their shoulders, through here, and we're tense, and even though we're getting adjusted, we're still not loose through here, and I've probably told you need to take more magnesium. That's what allows to unbind your body. Magnesium is another big deficiency. We do get it from healthy foods, though. You can get most of the magnesium in your diet if you're eating a really, really clean diet. That's things like pumpkin seeds, cashews. Dark chocolate is one of the highest sources of omega-3s. So not like Hershey's dark chocolate. Like it's got to be 70% cocoa content or above at minimum. You're not going to get it from Hershey's. The average person needs 400 to 500 milligrams a day if you're a guy, 320 to 420 per day. Now, if you're an athlete or you're exercising a lot, you need to easily double that. because again, your body has to repair. The only way that your muscles relax or magnesium goes in. If you're stressful, you're going to deplete it faster from your body. So the average person is getting around 250 milligrams per day. That's the average. But these foods are going to help to rapidly increase it through there, get your body more of what it needs, okay? Again, people come in with blood pressure problems, type 2 diabetes, magnesium immediately goes into their diet with everything that they need, okay? Question? There's tons. There's like 1 million. So magnesium, they're all chelate bound. So like you'll have magnesium oxide or magnesium citrate. They're basically bound because magnesium gets absorbed very quickly in the body. So they're bound to basically a substrate that breaks off and then magnesium attaches to the site it needs to be. I've read a ton on it. I have not seen any consistency with which one is more or less absorbable than the other. We use magnesium oxide. We've used magnesium citrate before. And all of them seem to have around a 50 to 80% absorption rate inside of the body. But people love arguing about it, and I haven't found anything that gives me a reason to say, like, you have to do citrate or a non-chelated form or organic magnesium or something like that, okay? So more magnesium. The last thing is probiotics, and you're going to get that from, healthy, high-fat, fermented foods. So if you're devoid in probiotics, you're not going to get the nutrients you need. We talk about your gut health. There's 2 things you need for gut health. It's vitamin D, and it's healthy probiotics. You need healthy flora inside of your gut, okay? We have healthy flora that we're going to give you guys as well for lunch today, so that'll be exciting. All right, so the last thing, so people always ask, like, okay, so what do I do with this? A couple action steps is first and foremost, start working on changing your diet. The second thing, if you have not been to a grocery store tour before yet, or you want to learn how to actually shop within a grocery store tour, or shop within a grocery store, sign up, put your name on the list. We're going to collect them in the second half of the talk, and we'll get you guys registered so you guys can be there for that. The last thing, if you guys have really bad deficiencies or you just don't know where to start, I have patients who come in and they bring a box of like 500 supplements, and they're like, tell me what I need to take. You know what I mean? I've got everything in here. I've got ginkgo, I've got vitamin C, I've got E, I've got D, I've got all these different letters, and I don't know what to do with it. So what we have developed for you guys is there's actually a metabolic test that you can take where we can pinpoint the exact metabolic and nutritional deficiencies that you have, okay? The idea behind this test is we jointly developed this test with Genova Diagnostics. We've been using it for about 5 years now. We've got a great patient base. More than 500,000 people have taken this test around the world. And what it basically shows is when you put a piece of food inside of your body, how does it get broken down? What are all the steps that it goes through to turn into energy and nutrients inside of the body? So we can literally look through and see, like, for example, you can't produce energy properly. Where's the problem? Okay, so it's in your mitochondria. You're missing CoQ10, B vitamins, and alpha lipoic acid. So we can see exactly where your problems are and pinpoint them. The whole idea behind this is we can find deficiencies in your body 10 to 20 years before you actually develop that process. All right, so let's talk about the next part. So we talked about the food. Next, we're going to talk about the body. And when I talk about the body, really the big thing is movement. Everyone say movement. Movement. Is anyone still eating? I heard some people like movement. So movement is this. Movement is the animation of life through the human frame. Literally, to move is to be alive. Movement literally is the core factor in discerning someone who's living versus not living. Okay, it's very simple. If someone is moving, they're living. If someone is not moving, they're what? They're dead. They're not alive anymore. So movement is literally essential to life. Movement, it's not just a good idea. Exercise is not just a good idea. They've shown this time and time again through research that movement is vital for life. Your body has a genetic requirement for a certain amount of movement per day. So if you're meeting those standards, your body's healthy. If you're not, your body is going downwards. So you've got to work on getting your body healthy and moving properly. They've shown that they've done research studies. Like I said, they have this rat. I don't know what his name is, or mouse. My wife wouldn't even look at it. She's like, oh, I saw it on my slide. They did, 5 years ago, they started doing research studies on what helped to prevent dementia, what was a good treatment for Alzheimer's. So again, they were looking at how do we improve your body's brain chemistry. And what they found was that long term, none of the drugs actually worked. They never worked to really reduce the problems that were going on inside of your brain. And one of the goals that they were looking for is this compound that they found that exists within the brain. And it's a hormone, and it's called BDNF, or brain-derived neurotrophic factor. It's basically stimulated inside of your body, and that's what causes your brain to heal itself, to keep hydration, to keep nutrients inside of it. So they're trying to do everything possible to recreate or stimulate BDNF inside of the body. Like I said, they were doing medications with all these rats. They were, playing soft music for the rats, like all these different studies, and they couldn't find anything. And then they had this one mouse that was supposed to be like the placebo, and they're like, we'll just compare it to moderate exercise and see what happens. It was the only mouse who actually showed an improvement in the production of brain-derived neurotrophic factor. There's two things that we now know of that cause it. One is whole body movement, so that's full body exercise. That's air squats, that's jumping jacks, that's working out. The second thing is adjustments, so getting your spine moving. So your body has to move on a global level and also a segmental level. So we're going to talk about both of those, teach you guys how to work out properly. I talked about Brittany earlier and what she was doing, and I don't know if that resonated for any of you guys. She goes to the gym, spends like an hour on the treadmill, you know what I mean? She goes outside and jogs, and she's wondering why she's not losing any weight, why her body habitus, her ratio of fat to muscle, is not changing at all. What we found is that while physical exercise is important to your brain, there's actually good ways to exercise, and there's not the good ways to exercise. So like what I'll start out by saying is this: if you're exercising, awesome. Don't think I'm saying, oh, you're doing it wrong, or don't exercise at all. Something is better than nothing, but what we've definitely found now is that there's one of the best ways to exercise possible. And the really cool thing about it is it doesn't really take that long. So if you want to increase your brain chemistry, if you want to increase what's called your brain-derived neurotrophic factor, if you want to help boost your testosterone levels, lower your cortisol levels, all of those things are achieved by exercise. What the newest science is showing is that we don't have to spend an hour and a half in the gym. We can actually do it in minutes. And it doesn't involve strapping anything around your body that's going to electrocute your abs or anything like that. So don't worry, I'm not going to sell you some booty boot camp thing. But what it is it's doing something called high intensity exercise. And so what high intensity exercise is, like, your feet are leaving the floor, you're moving quickly. If you think about it this way, your body burns food for energy, right? So your body burns two things. It burns sugar for energy and it burns fat for energy. And so if you think about it this way, sugar's like instant energy, right? Like if you give a kid a candy bar, they will bounce off the walls. You guys with me? So fat is like a slow burning fuel. Fat's like an oak log on a fire. So it's like what sustains you throughout the day, okay? The whole idea behind this, the big problem happened in exercise when years ago we discovered that exercising at a moderate rate actually burnt fat. So like if you go out and you're sitting on a treadmill for an hour and you're, just jogging, doing your thing, that's going to burn fat. Hands down, it'll burn fat, it'll help your body cardiovascularly, but what it won't do is help change your hormones. So what they found was that if you actually exercise in a high intensity over a short period of time, you're going to do a better job at changing your hormones. In fact, what they found is that when you exercise at a high intensity over a short period of time, you don't burn any fat at all during the workout. The only thing that you have time to do is burn sugar. So your body has like 2 days of stored sugar reserves. What they found is that, you're actually depleting your sugar reserves, and what's really cool is the next 24 to 48 hours after you exercise, as long as you eat the right foods like we talked about, your body will actually turn on a mechanism that burns fat inside of your body for 24 to 48 hours. So it's literally burning fat to try to replace that stored sugar you need. So if a bear walks in here, you don't have to go through some mitochondrial cycle to convert fat into sugar and be like, hold on 1 second, I don't have enough energy to run right now. So you can have those reserves. So the really cool thing is that can be absolutely accomplished. And I see groggy eyes, so I'm going to show you guys how it's done, and more importantly, I'm going to demo to you guys how it's done. So everyone's going to stand up. So exercise is all about high intensity, okay? It's not about going slow, it's about moving fast. And so what I see is a lot of people, they're like, well, I just go slow because I don't want to hurt myself. The whole idea is do what you can, okay? So if you have a bad shoulder, don't throw uppercuts. If you have a really bad back, let's fix it, but don't try to squat and put your butt to the ground. If you don't have the mobility to get there, we got to work on that, okay? But again, everyone can do something at a high intensity, all right? So we'll talk about posture a little bit more. This is all about movement. So we'll work on getting you guys moving better globally, but what about when you're doing at work all day? I have a question for you guys. Who has like a sitting desk job? Like who works at a computer, sitting at a desk? Okay, so about maybe half the room. Who has a different job than that? Who doesn't work on a computer? Someone tell me what you do. Like 5 or 6? That's it? Don't work on Frida. She just runs the town. So here's one of the problems is, again, movement is essential for life. And so when we're not moving, our body starts breaking down. One of the biggest issues I've seen now, and it's starting to get better, but it's the chronic posture that we're obtaining on a daily basis that's causing tons of problems. I see more people than ever sitting at desks, and it's like we all have great intentions for our posture, but it's like, we start the morning, thinking about it, and we're like, oh, it's going to be a great day, right? Like, it's like we're perfect. And then by noon, we're here. And I've walked into offices at 5 o'clock where I just see people like dragged, like laying on their desk almost like, make this day end. And so the idea is this, so there's a researcher who came out with this, and they said that sitting literally is worse than smoking for your health. That if you sit 8 hours a day, independent of if you have a healthy diet or if you exercise properly, the lack of spinal motion alone increases your risk factors for developing type 2 diabetes by 90%. You're almost guaranteed, if you're spending that much time sitting, to develop diabetes, even if you eat healthy, because your body's not moving. So it's just breaking down, you're not getting the hormones you need. So there's a NASA researcher named Joan Vernikos, and what she found was that it's not necessarily how long you sit. This is good because everyone would have to go home and quit their job today. It's not just how often you sit. What she's shown is it's how often you break up the sitting. She said that being sessile is bad, but you can counteract it if you do a couple certain things, okay? And she said the biggest thing was it's how often you break up your sitting. So what it means is even if you have a job where you're working at a desk or you're working at a computer, if you break it up with intermittent breaks, you'll do better. It doesn't mean that you have to take a 25-minute break and go walk around the neighborhood. What it means is a 20 to 30-second break every 20 minutes is going to help to get full spinal motion. So you stand up, you stretch, you turn, you twist every which way. It increases the brain-derived neurotrophic factor going into your brain, helps stimulate hormone production as well, and it stops your body from going down that cycle of developing spinal arthritis, losing your disc spaces, losing your hormone production, losing your energy production, all of those things. Sound cool, right? So every 20 to 30 minutes, you've got to stand at your desk, shake it out, move around. Again, movement is life. So it doesn't mean that you can just, again, say, okay, well, I'll just exercise 8 minutes a day and not do anything the rest of the day. It doesn't work that way. We're designed to move, okay? Second thing, if you haven't done it already, we're going to talk about posture and ergonomics. You've got to change your ergonomics at your office or at your house. Your monitor has to be up. You have to either be sitting in a chair that is higher than the level of your knees, or you need to be standing. So what it means is if you're ever sitting and you feel that your butt is lower than your knees, you're killing your lower back. Absolutely killing it. I'll show you the research on what sitting actually does to your spine. It's insane. So again, your butt must be higher than your knees. Your femur should come down at a 45-degree angle. So if I'm sitting, it should ideally speaking probably be I haven't sat here yet. This would be like the lowest I would ever sit at, prolonged. It should be higher than that. It should be like a higher stool, like about 6 inches higher than that, or standing. So it keeps your posture and ergonomics in a good overall alignment and position, okay? So what does posture do? Posture affects everything, literally everything. Our form is our function. It affects every single hormone function from physiological function, breathing, hormone production. I talked to a group of nurses, like perioperative nurses last week, and just asked them how much posture affects everything. It's the hardest job I've ever heard of. They basically have to stand somewhere for hours and like hold an organ while someone's under, but they can't move. So like this perioperative heart surgeon, she's like, I have to hold a heart for like 4 hours in one spot. She goes, I can't move. She goes, the process is like first it hurts, then it goes numb, and then I lose sensation that my arm is actually there. And she's like, when I have to let go, and she just describes it so simply, and I'm still thinking like you're holding a heart. She's like, I have to like take my hand and like pull it off because the joints like forget how to even move. Like movement is so essential. As soon as you stop doing anything, even for a couple hours, it starts breaking down. And all of them were either seeing chiropractors or they had really bad posture because they hadn't started yet. So the whole idea behind it is your posture means everything when it comes to to your health. They talk about lung capacity, function, all of those things. So here's the problems. Even if we don't have a desk job, who owns a cell phone? If the average person checks it 87 times per day, it's 190 minutes is the average time someone spends on it. And so what does that do to our posture? Like our whole head tilt. We're like this, right? So our head weighs as much as a bowling ball, and what they've shown now is that every inch that our head shifts forward, it basically doubles the amount of force that our head puts on our shoulders and neck. So again, you have nerves that come out through every area. Anytime that happens, it starts to compress or crush the nerves that come down through there. So normally speaking, what should our body look like? So what does a normal posture look like? It doesn't just mean that we're standing up straight. So good, healthy posture, good, healthy alignment doesn't mean that we're just like holding ourselves back. From the side, our spine should have healthy curves. Should look like this. From the front, our spine should look like this, okay? So is this normal? You guys have impatience? No, right? So what happens if our spine is shifted like this? What happens to the nerves through here? Someone say they're pinched, right? They don't work properly. So in order for us to have healthy alignment long term, there's got to be this healthy overall position. Basically, our brain tells our body what to do through here. So if that area starts to break down, our body's not going to function well. Okay, and that's what it looks like on the inside. There should be 3 concentric circles. The really cool thing about this, so I get like super nerdy when I talk about this stuff, but I love it. So it's like we're designed to, Harvard research has shown that our body shouldn't break down, our spine specifically, shouldn't break down for 80 to 120 years. And then they did another follow-up study. They were looking at potential for brain health, and they did it with all these brain function studies too, that our brain should be 80 to 120 as well. They said that like our brain neurons should last about 120 years before they start breaking down. So my question then is like, so why does it break down so early? You know what I mean? Like, why do I see people in their 20s now, 30s, with chronic arthritis? We're doing things in our environment that are causing this to break down through there. So I think there's a video.
All right, technology.
Sorry. So there's a video coming up that's going to kind of explain this. The newest research, I believe this girl will be up for either a Nobel Prize or some type of amazing chiropractic prize. She's a PhD trained neuroscientist who's also a chiropractor. And the research that she's done over the last 10 years is why we have all this information about text neck, how to adjust you guys properly, how to take care of your spine to prevent those problems so that you guys can watch this.
All right, technology is doing some major damage to our younger generation, and it's not just their minds that are affected. A study by British chiropractors has found almost, this is extraordinary, almost half of 16 to 24-year-olds have severe aches in their neck and in their back. That is up 60% on last year alone. The rise is being attributed to the fact we spend an average 195 minutes a day looking at our smartphones. More if you're Paulina, obviously. She's looking at many devices. Chiropractors believe it is ruining the posture of an entire generation. We're joined now by Heidi Horvick. Heidi, good morning to you.
Good morning.
You're a chiropractor. Would you agree with the study that's come out, the British study?
Yes, I would. I'm also a PhD trained neuroscientist, so I spent the last 15 years of my life looking into exactly this and the effect of the spine and what it has on our overall health and well-being.
Are you seeing more and more younger people coming in with the sorts of aches and pains that you would normally attribute to much older people?
Well, see, I'm a full-time scientist at the moment, but I do know from the research that that's exactly what's happening. There's more and more younger people, and I don't know, I've got little nephews and nieces, and they sit like this.
People do.
On their iPhones.
Yeah.
And it's like a bowling ball. Your head's as heavy as a bowling ball, and it's literally hanging on your muscles, your ligaments, and it's putting an awful lot of pressure on your spine.
It is extraordinary, isn't it? Because there's been a lot of money and a lot of effort that's gone into trying to find out how damaging mentally our constant use of these, this new technology is. But nowhere near as much time has gone into studying how bad it is for us physically. Is it the smartphone, the way we're looking at phones down in our lap and bending our heads, that's the biggest problem?
The thought is that posture does have a great impact on quite a lot of things. We know that posture and bad posture, particularly head forward slouching, can cause problems with your breathing, so it causes problems with oxygenation of your brain. But we also know that it affects mood, resilience to stress, and there's also quite a lot of evidence now that the actual function and movement of your spine itself, that we actually need that movement, that itself feeds the brain, and that helps your brain to accurately perceive what's going on in your body and in the environment around you, and therefore respond appropriately.
So basically it's your spine stops moving, your brain stops. The whole idea behind it is we got to work on keeping it as healthy as possible. This is another video that she released that basically goes through, this is 30 years of what happens to the spine. So we all start with a healthy arc or curve on our neck, and this is what all of those traumas do, whether it be cell phone or computer use. Do you see what's happening in the spine, how it's shifting forward? So instead of there being an arc, it's shifting, and then the second part that happens is the bones, the space between the bones start to degenerate. That's how arthritis literally occurs inside of the body. You have a spinal cord that sits inside of there as well, right here towards the back. And so that was literally a 30-year progression and time lapse of it. But here's the idea with that. That's completely preventable. Completely 100% preventable. It has nothing to do with your genetics or how old you are. All it has to do is with stress over time. And so in our bodies we have, or in life we have this thing called gravity that's constantly pulling down on us. Can I get, something's reverbing. How do I turn it down? Okay, thank you. Sorry, I just don't want to have the ringing. We have gravity that's pulling down on us all day long. So the only way to do it is to keep good posture and really work on aligning our spines properly. They've shown now that as soon as we lose that curve in our neck, as soon as we lose our posture, it predisposes us to degenerative changes over time to the tune of this, that changes in your body's posture and position. It correctly predicts pathology 79% of the time. That means wherever your spine has degeneration or arthritis, it's going to properly predict where you'll have pathology in an organ. So for example, if you have damage in your upper neck, it's going to predispose you to have problems with headaches or migraines. The same nerves that come out of your upper neck go into your heart, leads to blood pressure problems like congestive heart failure. She talked about how it feeds your brain. So if you have damage in your spine up here, your brain doesn't get the nutrients it's supposed to, so you don't get those feel-good endorphins that your body's supposed to make when it moves a lot and when you exercise. If you go to the middle or lower portion of your neck through here, it can affect, again, your heart, your lungs. The later part of the study, she made the announcer like put his head forward like this and take a deep breath in, and if you try that, you can't even do it. So the problem is all these problems in our spine are causing issues, and again, the problem is we never talk about it. You know what I mean? It's a totally preventable issue. So these are some of the research studies on it. This is one of the biggest ones to date on how posture affects your overall health. It was called the Rancho Bernardo study. It was 1,300 people inside of this study, and they looked long-term. They looked at their lordosis levels, so meaning they measured them from the side and they saw how far forward their head was shifted, and they took a measurement on it. And what they found was that people who have more kyphosis in their spine, more of a translation like this, they had an increased mortality rate, get this, that's the only one that I know of that's higher than smoking as it relates to cardiovascular health. They said that people who had bad shifts in their spine, arthritis through their spine, their mortality rates due to cardiovascular disease were 2.4 times out of normal. So it's unbelievable how much of an impact, again, your spine, your nerves have on your overall health. It's been a law for a long time that basically when your spine shifts, it's going to be unhealthy. You guys ever do like some weird experiments for $20 when you were a freshman in college? Yeah. Is that just me? So, so whenever you're in college, they have like, I just fell for it maybe. They have like these intro classes you take, like Psychology 100. And part of your class is you get to be like a lab rat and all of these weird case studies and experiments. And so there was one, this is done in 1996. They literally took college kids and they gave them arthritis. And they didn't mean to, but they were trying to figure out and prove the biomechanics of the spine and how well it functions. And so what they did was they said, okay, listen, here's the experiment. All you have to do is just walk around, go about your normal schedule. We're going to take like a half-inch heel lift and put it in one of your shoes. We're going to take x-rays on your spine. We're going to take MRIs on your spine. We'll take them afterwards as well. His kids are like, easy money, right? Like, so I'll do this experiment. I'll get my credits. Just walking. I don't have to do anything. This is great. So after 2 weeks, they took follow-up MRIs on the college kids, and what they found was that in their hips, in the joints of their hips right through here, so, I mean, imagine what that would do, right? Half-inch shift here, you're walking a little bit funny, right? They said the amount of stress that it put on their lower back, it caused bone marrow density changes within the bone structure within 2 weeks. So they had early onset signs of arthritis within 14 days of just a minor misalignment through their spine, which affected their hips, their translation, everything like that. So it's called Wolff's Law. It's basically as your body shifts out of alignment, your body will adapt to that. So we talked earlier about cancer, how you have more cholesterol when you have cancer. Your body's designed to adapt. And so if you think about it this way, people are like, well, why, if my body adapts, then why would I get arthritis? Like, why would my body break down? Well, I always tell people, like, well, your body's smart. You know what I mean? Like, think about it this way. If my head is shifted forward like this, is there more pressure through here? Yes or yes? Yes, right? So there's more pressure through here. Do you think I need more bone to protect that area or less? You need more, right? So it's going to intelligently lay down more. The problem is long-term. It sacrifices stability in the short term, so meaning it adds bone for mobility in the long term. You lose the ability to move, and when you don't move properly, it's when your body really starts breaking down through there, okay? So the whole idea behind it is to improve your spine alignment. That's what we do if you guys are patients in the office. These are some warning signs that are signs that you need to actually get your spine checked or have your nervous system evaluated to figure out if there are issues in here. So like in infants and toddlers, when we see little kids, some of you guys have been in the office, we've seen so many kids recently with like colic or small birthing injuries. Your spine literally from birth is fragile. And 87 to 92% of babies have some type of mild to moderate birthing trauma. People always ask me, like, why do you adjust babies? I say, because I couldn't take care of them while they were in the womb. You know what I mean? Like, I just couldn't get to them yet. So the problem is when they come out, and like my wife, she had a 50-hour labor, beautiful birthing process, but a 50-hour labor does some damage on the baby's head and neck. You know what I mean? Came out and my baby had his head slightly turned. I worked on it and aligned it. I've seen kids come in who can't even turn their neck, and then I think, what if we never took care of them? You know what I mean? What if they went 2, 3, 4, 5 years with a problem in their spine that wasn't getting any better? You know what I mean? It's the same people I see then who have kids who get on technology when they're 2 years old now, who are, you know, putting their head down all day long. And then we wonder why, like she was talking about all the people who are in their teens and 20s now who have chronic neck problems. We're fostering a generation that's growing up. We're just setting them up for problems. You know what I mean? So I want to start correcting it as soon as humanly possible, not when people are 20, 30, 40, 50, when they're born. That's why we see kids. Those are a lot of the common problems there. In teens, the same thing. We see hormonal problems, skin reactions, depression, the checkpoints in the top part of your skull. If you have movement there, helps your brain work properly. When it doesn't move properly, it causes depression. In adults, those are all the issues. Brain fog, reflux, chronic neck issues, blood pressure problems, all of those things, okay? And so if you guys are guests here, last thing we'll talk about is your mind. And really this part means everything. Like if you, in all honesty, it doesn't matter any of the other things. If you don't get this part, you can throw everything else away. Because if your mindset's not ready, if it's not fertile ground, you're not going to grow from this. And so my first thing is on the stress that we deal with on a daily basis. I know we went over a lot of things today. And for a lot of you guys, you're thinking like I can do it, or I don't know if I can do it. You know, like we have all this stress in our lives. And all I found out that stress is, from working with a lot of people, is stress basically is the gap between where you are and where you see yourself being, okay? And so in our lives, that gap is what causes our stress. It's what I think relates to all of our problems. Because if we thought in our mind that we were doing everything perfectly and always amazing, we wouldn't have that stress model. So really, the stress doesn't just come from that. It comes on what we're doing with that gap. As that gap gets larger, our internal stress in our own lives get bigger. And so what I want to help with for you guys is I want to help to close that gap between where you are and where you want to be. So you got to mind that gap. What it means is you have to work on doing things towards getting you towards it. The first step is realizing that you have to be happy where you are. And so I always think this way. I'm usually very hard on myself, and my wife will come up to me and be like, "Hey, you're doing better than you think you are." You know what I mean? As long as you're putting the things in place, you're doing better than you think you are. And so there's two different mindsets that they've found through psychology that most people fit into one or two of these. There are people with a fixed mindset and people with a growth mindset. And what I didn't realize in my own life is that I sat in probably a fixed mindset for 10 years or so. A fixed mindset is someone who gets frustrated when things get hard. Okay, so someone with a fixed mindset, and you may not even realize that you're like this, but this was me, was like if I didn't do well on a test, I was like, man, I should have done way better on that test. Or if I couldn't figure out a problem, I was frustrated. I was like, I should know that, I'm better at this, you know what I mean? And the reason that that's a fixed mindset is because it's kind of like having an ego in your life saying, I should be just perfect at everything I lay my hands on. And no one, say no one? No one is born perfect. No one is born an expert at everything. But for some reason through life, we tend to think that. And so we put ourselves in that fixed boxed mindset, which doesn't allow for us to grow. It doesn't allow for us to have grace in our own lives, to realize like, if this is the first time that you guys started learning about nutrition or are going to go home and try to clean out your cabinet, like, it's difficult. It is not easy. And there's definitely like, I've been working on doing this for 10 years now. And it's like, you have to be dedicated and realize that there's going to be failure along the way. And so there's a second mindset, and this is what I want you guys to write down, is have a growth mindset. A growth mindset means you embrace challenges. So it's like, whatever, hard test, like, good, bring it on. Like, let's do this. Like I'm ready to fail. You know what I mean? Like, that sounds weird, but it's like, I'm ready to fail. I'm ready to fall flat on my face because I know that every failure I have, I'm one step closer to victory. Okay? And so that is part of a growth mindset. When it comes to getting healthy, you've got to have a growth mindset. The reality is, because when you get frustrated about not being healthy, does it make you better or worse? It makes you worse, right? Like, you're stressing more, and that's like an internal thing I do. I'm like, I shouldn't be stressing about this. I'm causing more problems. I'm decreasing my brain-derived neurotrophic factor, and I'm not getting hormones to my brain. I'm causing myself to lose it. So it's got to be a growth mindset. And so these are the big takeaways. Is the first thing is you've got to believe that you can, okay? I've met people in every walk of life. I've met people who are literally on their deathbed. Belief that you can is the difference between someone who makes it through and doesn't. Because times are going to get hard, and you can't judge progress just by feeling better or success. You have to do it by knowing that you're doing the right things to get better. The second thing is, again, this is a journey, so just work on making better choices every day. If this is your first time, or this is your, I think Angel's been to like 7 or 8 seminars. She's still learning things here that are going to make her better. No one's perfect at this. We're constantly learning to get better. And then the problem will be, as soon as we get good at something, they'll change food marketing or something like that, and we'll have a new thing to get better at. So constantly get better every day. The last thing, or the third thing, surround yourself with others who are where you want to be. So success models success. If you want to be healthy, stay healthy, want to be the best. LeBron James was not born LeBron James. He modeled himself off of people who did it beforehand. So surround yourself with those people, okay? Expect progress, not perfection. You're not going to be perfect tomorrow. I love studying success stories. I think it's so important when it comes to everything. You should be an expert in 2 things, I think. It should be what you love in life and your health. Because when it comes to your health, health is such an intimate and personal thing. You are the only one who's responsible, and no one will know you as well as you know you. So one of the reasons I talk and pour into you guys is so that when it comes to being healthy and staying healthy, you guys are your own experts. And you have to be that way, because you can't rely on anyone else 24/7. I'll be there to help you and support you guys, but you've got to become an expert when it comes to it, okay? Everyone get those? Cool. Awesome. So this is London. This is becoming an expert. This is London. So 25,000 streets within 6 miles of the city center, not on a grid system. Every street is uniquely named. It's widely accepted that the examination to be a London City cab driver, have you guys heard this before? It is the hardest test that you can take. On average, to pass this test, it takes drivers 4 years. More people quit than succeed with it. They have the same dropout rate as the Navy SEALs. I am not joking at all. At all. And so what they found in going through this test is that literally people quit more often than they fail. And so they teach having a growth mindset in the courses for this, because to memorize 25,000 streets that have no order, nothing to them, it's difficult. But so they've done studies before where they've measured the taxi drivers' brains. And what they found is that if they don't quit, if they keep working towards it, the hippocampus in their brain, again, the area that controls memory, it gets larger. And after failing and failing and failing, a feat that they thought was impossible, like this test is nearly impossible, a feat that they thought was impossible, people can actually do and thrive in. So again, you just always have to work on getting better. You can do anything. This is Alexander Alkeen. He is a world-famous chess player. When he was growing up in school, 2, 3, 4 years old, he became obsessed with chess. By the age of 7, he was kicked out of school because he wouldn't pay attention in class. kept his eyes closed, and what he was doing is he'd go to his studies, and he'd go to different areas in town where people were playing chess, and he would focus all day on memorizing the moves of master chess players. And he developed, by the time he was 7, he could play entire games inside of his head. And so by the time he was in his 30s, he became bored, and he flew to New York for an exhibition where he challenged master chess players, and there was a catch. He stood at the front of the room like this, and he did not look at a single table. He had runners come to him and say, the rook on table 14 has moved from A4 to C1. He had runners telling him that, and he played those games. 32 games, he only won 25. He drew 5, he lost 2, but he worked his entire life on becoming a master. Mozart, who was esteemed as someone who's having perfect pitch, one of a handful of people in the world who have been born with perfect pitch, he was not born with perfect pitch. Does anyone become an expert when they're born? No, right? So he was developed. So what they found out with Mozart was since the time he was 3, even before that, his parents were developing in him, but he began like physically practicing music when he was 3 years old. By the time he was 7, you could drop a fork and he could tell you what pitch it made off dropping on the floor. And they thought that he was a prodigy, some type of gift. And what they found was that you can take anyone, and if you start developing them from that age, they can actually do it as well. So anyone can do these things. You just have to dedicate towards becoming an expert. This is not Steve Falloon. This is a prodigy of him. Has anyone ever heard of Steve Falloon before? So he has the world record for the longest short-term memory. So everyone's short-term memory is about 7 or 8 digits. Why do you think Social Security numbers are 9 long? Interesting, right? So you can't remember it. So I thought about that. Like yesterday, I was like reading this. I was like, oh my gosh, this is insane. So 7 or 8 digits. That's the most amount of short-term memory that it's widely believed that we are capable of memorizing. So just enough for a phone number, not with the area code. So what they found out is that they took another kid, again, college study. He was a young student at Carnegie Mellon. And they gave him an experiment throughout his entire undergraduate career. He agreed to it his freshman year. They said, for an hour a day, we're going to work on increasing your short-term memory. And so they would give him 7 digits, like 8, 6, 7, 5, 4, 2, 1. And he'd memorize it and repeat it back to him. And if he got 7 right, they'd move to 8. And if he got 8 right, they'd move to 9. If not, they'd go all the way back to 7. They did this for an hour a day. A month in, no change. He was the same, and he literally wanted to quit. He was like, I'm spending an hour a day with these random numbers. You know what I mean? They said, keep working, keep working, keep working. So 4 months in, he was at 12. So he could memorize 12 numbers that had never been done before, in very rare like sects of like people who they thought were like mensas or had eidetic memories. By 6 months, he got to 22. So they could say 22 digits. He would memorize all of them by 200 sessions. 200 sessions, so that's 4 years practicing. 2,000, whatever that is, 1,000 sessions. He got to 82. 82 digits memorized. And so they've done this. There's actually a group now called Mind Masters where they go around and they teach people how to increase their short-term memory. And again, the same thing they find out, and this parallels what I see people doing with their health, is most people quit before they get to that point. You know what I mean? Most people, we hear this stuff and we start working on it, and as soon as it gets difficult, we say, I give up, like I'm not doing it anymore. But the reality is if you keep working, you will get better. It takes people different times, but they will all get better. So the idea behind this, to make effective change in your life, is there's 4 different steps. So what happens at first is you get new information. So all of you guys are going to go home, and if you apply this information, you're going to have something called rapid progress. Everyone say progress. Progress. You're going to go home, you're going to get better. You start doing these things. You start taking care of your body. You start exercising more. You start eating better, and we help you along the way. You're going to do well. But this will happen. In a few weeks, you're going to hit a perceived limit. And so what I found is that the people who can work through that, basically, I know this sounds bad, but the people who can live in prolonged frustration while trying to change become the most successful. But most people get to this point and they quit. So what happens in life is we do something, we get a little bit better, and then all of a sudden we're worse off than where we thought we came in because we won't live in that prolonged frustration. When things get hard, we quit. So if you keep working on that and keep working on that and keep working on that, eventually you'll have a breakthrough. And that breakthrough takes you to a new level of health, and then guess what happens again? You hit a wall, and then you have to work really hard, and then you make a breakthrough. And this is how success lives. So to get successful, you have to be willing to go through the hard parts, to have frustration and live in that. It doesn't mean you're like, your whole life is miserable, but success comes from that trying, that working towards getting better. And so there's a model that's on this as well. There's 5 steps to it. The first step is you have to have a desire. So we talked about having like your 5 closest friends. You also have to have a desire for what you want in your life. So whatever that is, I'll get healthy. I want to get off medications. I want to get my life back. I want to play with my grandchildren again. Whatever that is, you've got to have that initial desire. That's going to push you. Next is you have to get the right information, and you have to continue to grow within that. So it's not just information today. Health is lifelong. You're a lifelong learner. Again, they said that the cab drivers, their hippocampus kept getting bigger as they learn more streets. You've got to learn more and more, and you will get better. The next thing is you have to have a plan of action. So leaving here, this can't just sit in a folder and collect dust. You've got to take what you've learned here and apply it into your life. So you've got to have a plan of action when it comes through that. That means you've got a war plan. You've got a schedule. You're telling your friends, like, no, we're not going to eat at that restaurant. It has crap food. Like, you've got to stand up for yourself. You know what I mean? Like, you're telling your family, because you guys are here, you all have families. You're not the health leaders in your family. Like, you're the ones who are going to inspire the change. So you have to be that leader in it. Come to the seminars. Come to the grocery store tours. The reason that we do these for you guys, we do at least 1 or 2 events a month. They're to help you guys. For myself personally, I go to 8 to 12 seminars per year just on health and development. Like, I'm constantly learning to teach you guys. If you guys aren't constantly pouring into yourself, life takes you the other way. So you've got to have a plan of action when it comes to it. We want to help you guys with that, but again, it's also in your own lives. The last thing is you need coaching and help. Whether it's from me or someone, you need someone who's going to mentor you, someone who's been where you are, someone who knows what you don't, someone who can help lead you there. Like I said, I use Dr. Marissa as my chiropractor. I get so much nutrition advice from Aaron and all the experts that I work with, like Drs. Hardick and Bohemia. Like, I have people all around the country that I'm literally probably annoying because I want to know as much as possible. And for you guys, when you guys are constantly asking me questions, I love it. You want to know why? Because you're getting better. So don't ever come up to me and say, I'm so sorry to ask you this. I want to help you guys. This is not like clock in, clock out for me. This is all I do. So you've got to have that coaching. And so what they've shown is that if you have a desire, if you have the right information, you develop a plan of attack, and you use someone to help you, catalyze you there, you're going to end up having results. 3, 4, 5 are interchangeable. So you'll have a plan of action, you'll have a coach, you'll do it, and you'll fall on your face. And then what do? We change the plan. We add this, we take away that. We remove detractors in your life. I put in there, some of you guys just need to get off Facebook or whatever is distracting you. Just uninstall it, whatever it is, whatever distractors. You've got to get away from those things, okay? So have a plan of action, use implementation and feedback, and constantly work on getting yourself better, okay? I'm done talking. I love you guys. We all have an ability inside of us, just an amazing potential. We just have to become experts, okay? Thank you, guys.